Well, this morning, a manhunt is underway after conservative activist Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at a Utah college campus on Wednesday.
And joining us live now from our nation's capital is Scripps News Group's Washington, D.C. correspondent Stephanie Lieberg. And Stephanie, thanks for being with us this morning. We want to hear about the latest on the investigation and also how some of the major politicians there in D.C. are reacting this morning to Kirk's death, and including this, we're hearing about a change in travel plans today for Vice President J.D. Vance.
Hey, Andrea and Adriana, good morning. So yes, we just found out, according to a source familiar, that the vice president and his wife, the second lady, will be traveling to Salt Lake City, Utah today in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk instead of their previously planned 9/11 anniversary related travel. Now, as for the investigation, there is a manhunt underway, but we don't have any information on who exactly officials are looking for. The shooter is still unidentified. There were two people taken into custody yesterday, detained and questioned, but they have both since been released. And officials and investigators haven't provided any sort of information on who they might be looking for as the suspected shooter, who fired just one shot in hitting Kirk. Investigators say the shooter was likely on a rooftop as far as 200 yards away. Here in Washington, D.C., of course, the reaction to the shooting was swift, and there were bipartisan members expressing, of course, concern and thoughts and prayers for the Kirk family and all of their friends, anyone who knew him. But there were a lot of calls for the political violence in America to come to a stop. Now, Kirk and his Turning Point USA organization advocated for conservative causes at high schools and on college campuses, but his events were known for an open dialogue. A number of members speaking to Scripps News yesterday saying that, his events were about hearing from the left and the right, that he wasn't afraid to talk to someone who he disagreed with. Prime example being he was recently on the podcast for California Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, a staunch liberal on the opposite end of the political spectrum from Kirk and his conservative beliefs. But we got at least one member of the House Republican caucus who noted that it's politicians on both sides of the aisle that have a responsibility to try to turn down the rhetoric. Take a listen.
All of our elected officials have a responsibility to think long and hard about how they engage on these issues, how they talk about these issues. We can duke it out. We can have political disagreement. We can vote our conscience. But the rhetoric that is constantly used to demean each other, and both sides are painfully guilty of this, it's got to stop.
Flags are flying at half-staff at the Capitol and the White House. You can see the Capitol flag maybe just barely over my right shoulder. That is in order from a proclamation from President Trump signed last night. Flags due to fly at half-staff through the weekend into Sunday evening. But as I noted, the investigation ongoing, and I think we will hear much more about Charlie Kirk and his legacy and what might come next for Congress, or if anything is going to happen as a result of this shooting.
Yeah, and local lawmakers here in Wisconsin are reacting to this on both sides of the aisle, saying the gun violence here, political gun violence, needs to stop.
Yeah, a moment of reckoning for our country, deeply disturbing. Stephanie, thank you for your time this morning.